my name is Matthew Zapata, and I'm here with my co-host and twin brother, Max Zapata, and we're here for the second part of the interview with Jorge Rodriguez. And yeah, let's get into it.
So, and then I'm going to walk you through, in 2006, when the day we coined it, the Day Without an Immigrant, these were the largest anti-immigrant marches in the country, the largest civil rights marches in the country. We had millions of people in the streets in 42 cities. You know why? Because this bill was...
I'm going to just make this up for a second. Camera to see.
So
do you want to take it through?
Yeah. So this bill, we coined this a Day Without Immigrant, but we started as the March 25th Coalition. So we planned a march against the censor burner bill, which had the same exact language as the Slave Fugitive Act of 1851.
The same language.
Same language. You took out slave and you just put immigrant. And people didn't understand that. And we're telling people, but our people got into it. So the first march we had was March 25th. We had 350,000 people in LA marching, in Texas, in New York, and Washington. And then we started planning this march, and we coined it a Day Without an Immigrant, because it was going to show that immigrants are the backbone of part of the economy here. So we organized in 42 cities, and we shut down the economy of this country on May 1st, 2006. Shut down the agricultural business, trucking business, textile business, the ports. No one has done an analysis of the impact this march has had on the economy.
And it's sad, too, because I feel like nowadays, too, that everyone seems to be in denial on what immigrants bring to the country, economically. Yeah. And it's crazy how it's still an issue after all the things that you've done. And you would think by now that people would know what they bring to the table.
Yeah. And you asked the question of today, the censor burner bill is what brought people out. Okay, so in LA, we had over 1.5 million. In New York, we had 500,000. Chicago, we had over 1 million. San Antonio, we had over 500,000 in other parts of the country. But it created a real big impact. And we defeated that bill, by the way. And right after that is when George Bush Jr. started the raids in workplaces again, because they were pissed off that we defeated this bill.
So what was that like, organizing for this? And
I would say organizing like unions overall and protests. What goes into that necessarily?
Well, this was the first time the mayor, the Speaker of the House, who was Fabian Nunez, the mayor was Antonio Villaraigosa. They were at the front of this march, and Gil Cedillo. And Gil Cedillo is an important person. He was the one that pushed for undocumented workers to get their license in California. He's the guy that first put forth that bill. It wasn't his bill that got signed because he had left state legislation, but it was his idea. And he was a member of CASA. So was Antonio Villaraigosa. Back then, that's where they came out of, the immigrant rights movement. So the thing is that this, one thing that we've learned, the downside is that we did not organize the fruits, the aftermath of this march. These were the largest civil rights marches in this country I'd ever seen, bigger than the anti-war marches in the 60s, up until the marches for George Floyd and the killings of blacks recently. But these were that.
And this is not really, I think you mentioned it prior, this is not talked about. This has not been analyzed about how much you did on May 1st.
Right.
And what's been
the economic impact. But the thing is, people have not, they don't talk about part of the fact that these were the largest civil rights marches to date at that time.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, we got bypass, and it was beautiful what happened unfortunately, after the killing of all these people by the police. There was other bigger marches. But that goes to show you that our people pulled out and didn't go to work that day. We were asking people not to buy stuff, not to go to work, and it happened. So this is the second political strike that's ever occurred in the USA by Mexicans and immigrants and other Latinos. The first political strike was for the 8-hour working day in the turn of the century in this country. People went on strike for the 8-hour working day.
Can you talk about that?
Yeah. So it was the Wobblies who led that struggle back in the turn of the century to make a change, to lessen, because people were working, 16 hours, 7 days a week. There was no rest.
Yeah.
So people came up with the idea, let's fight for an 8-hour working day. Anything beyond that, well, then people got to get paid more. But workers from all walks of life fought for that, and it finally happened. So it didn't come out of a vacuum of the goodness of the government to give us an 8-hour working day or stop child labor laws.
Especially during the Industrial Revolution.
Yeah.
Power of the people.
Yeah, they were looking at the bottom line, and anybody who could shovel, do any type of work, put them in there, even if you were a kid.
Yeah.
So that was the first political strike in the country, the 8-hour working day. The second one is this. So
I wanted. No, go ahead.
And people still, they're going to be talking about this in history, and we pulled this off. The guys that were the chief spokesman at that time were my brother Javier Rodriguez, Jesse Diaz, he was a PhD student, and myself. And, I came out on CNN and all the channels, all that, because we, they wanted to interview us. Why were we doing this? Well, we said, because the Census Burner Bill was like the Slave Fugitive Act. And our people understood it. They didn't want to be criminalized, so that's why they came out. It had the same language. You couldn't teach people who are undocumented. You couldn't provide housing. You couldn't provide social services. You couldn't provide an education to them. So if you were a nurse or a teacher, and if this bill would have passed in 2006, you would have been criminalized, taken in for giving people knowledge, or for giving them food, or for giving them health care.
It highlights just how embedded the United States is in racism, because that's 2006. That's not 1940. It's not just way back when 100 years ago. That's less than 20, like 18 years-ish. Correct my math. It's like, this is something that I wish would be talked about more, because this is relevant, especially today, and what's going on now, and who's been elected, and their opinions on immigrants, and especially Hispanics.
Yeah.
And so I actually wanted to ask a question about that to you, and like how you feel about this president-elect and his opinion on immigrants, and his feelings of just trying to kick all these people and send them back to their countries of origin, and knowing from your background how hard you fought for those people and people like that. Can you just...
we fought for ourselves. So the thing is that racism hasn't gone away. I mean, I think this guy allowed for people to come out of the closet as racist. So it's a fad now. You can be a racist. So that's one thing. So his whole thing of targeting immigrants is no different what Hitler did, targeted the most vulnerable, and went after them and created this consciousness that, immigrants are the root cause. I mean, they've said that for ages. Immigrants are the problem. Pretty soon they're going to blame us for climate change. So, but the thing is, I'm just trying to make a joke about it. But the thing is, you got to understand, in an economy, you have people who work and do different things. Then you have a reserve army of people who are unemployed, because if you didn't have them, you wouldn't have the unemployment office, right? Okay. You wouldn't have public social services. So it's a necessity of life. But when there's fuller jobs and economy, you see a lower unemployment rate like we're experiencing right now. And definitely, I mean, so but there's still a lot of people out there that are unemployed that we don't know about, etc. So I think the onslaught of what the right wing with Miller and all the goons that Trump has in his administration, we're the fastest growing minority in this country. So they're looking at some really serious demographic changes throughout this country.
Yeah.
And the reality is that we're going to make a lot of changes. And our community is not homogeneous. There's right-wingers there, and also Republicans, etc. But the thing is, these guys don't see it that way. They're all Latinos, they're all raza, they're all Mexican, and we're going to deport them. But also, he's employing what Hitler did through, what's that guy? The PR guy that did the stuff for the Nazis.
I'm trying to remember.
But anyway, so you scare people. So this whole thing of scaring people that you're going to be deported, well, then everybody's going to be on alert because you could...
Fear-mongering. But this right here, I just want to hold this up again because this is, I think, this proves how much we contribute to this nation. The fact that we can, for one day, we decide we're not going to work, we're not going to buy things, we could shut down this economy.
Yeah.
And I think that we've only grown in number ever since 2006.
Right.
And I think that's it's a testament to what you've done and a testament to the things that we can do when we all stand together.
Yeah.
Unidos, because if we can do this then, we can do it now.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes a lot of work. It's important to understand that movements don't die, okay? There's a resurgence. Sometimes students take the lead in movements. Sometimes elected officials do the electoral process. Sometimes the religious community, like during the civil rights movement, they took a big part of that. Sometimes it's workers doing strikes, etc. And the fifth element is when it's a violent revolution, just like in Vietnam or like when our people were trying to fight to keep our land here. So, or the liberation movements against colonialism throughout the world. So those are the fine ebb and low phases of movement. So they never die.
They only morph.
Yeah. They it's a peaks and valleys. And a lot of people don't understand that. But read this guy. His name is Amilcar Cabral. He's the guy that came up with this theory from South Africa, Guinea-Bissau. He was the leader of the anti-colonial movement there in Africa. So movements so when people say, oh, the movement's dead or the Chicano movement died, or no, it's different phases surge forward. And I think that's important. Here in 2006, you saw the workers take to the streets and do things, and I think that's really important.
I want to touch back on, you mentioned before about Cesar Chavez.
Yeah.
And that you never mentioned explicitly, I was going to ask, did you get to meet with him and talk with him, with your mentor, and what was that like? Because you mentioned specifically a dark side of Cesar Chavez and immigrants. Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Cesar did some great stuff with Dolores Huerta and other people. They developed, they helped, and then the legislation they got for the Agricultural Relations Act, ARRB. But that took a lot of effort. So when the farm workers went on strike, it wasn't the Mexicans who were on strike first. It was the Filipinos, and some of the blacks. And so they went and asked for them to join them. Cesar said no at first.
He said no? No.
Yeah. And so then afterwards, with pressure and all that, when they saw things were moving, they ended up joining and making and then basically, he became the figurehead, and not this Filipino brother who Cruz something, I can't remember his last name, really progressive dude. He became vice president of the United Farm Workers Union. But during that time, too, Cesar had a dark view of immigrants. I mean, he called the immigration on people. You can look it up. There's congressional hearings where he's calling us wetbacks and greasers. But that's the self-hate that I talked about, the internal oppression that you espouse. And so we tried to talk to him. Bert tried to talk to him, saying that's the wrong road to go down. And so we had a demonstration in April of 1973, and I was responsible for leafleting the whole state. So I went to the different union halls where the United Farm Workers were. Cesar wasn't there, but I caught him at the United Auto Workers Union Hall in Fremont, California, and he wouldn't take a flyer from me. And I said, he kept turning his back, so I circled the other way. And I said, man, you can't have that stance on immigration, man. Those are our people. Plus, some of your members are undocumented. So he didn't care.
But that was born out of that kind of self-hate and what some have been taught to kind of think, like that kind of little borderlands between Mexico in this case and the United States, and having that kind of self-hate.
Right. So what happened in 1973, Bert Corona denounced Cesar Chavez for his stance on immigration. And we got hell from the whole progressive left in this country, the Mexican left. He denounced him for his stand. Wow. He publicly in a big rally in Hollenbeck Park, 1973.
How did that affect the movement as a whole?
Well, I think it created consciousness to show that, hey, that was part of the whole thing of you couldn't organize undocumented workers, you could not organize them in unions. And unfortunately, Cesar was part of that rabbit hole. And so, and when he couldn't really grasp it, and when he was doing the stuff he was doing, who calls the police on the police on their own people for working?
Wait.
Yeah,
he called the police?
The immigration and police. And he got people, he said they were breaking the strike. But do you call the police on people? He did.
Cesar Chavez called the police.
Oh, yeah, and he called immigration. It's a noted historical thing. So that's why I say that's the dark side of Cesar Chavez.
And really quick, the Cruz that you're talking about, the vice president, was Philip Vera Cruz.
Vera Cruz. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, he was very progressive. He had a class analysis, so Cesar got rid of him later on because he purged all the progressive people out of the union. That was another mistake he made. And he never, after they passed the Agricultural Labor Relations Act in California for farm workers, he didn't keep organizing. He should have kept organizing people, and that's where he went wrong. So his union never grew. And there was FLOC, the Farm Labor Organizing Committee, Fidel Velasquez, I think. He was trying to merge with Cesar Chavez, but Cesar didn't want to merge with him because this guy was more progressive than Cesar. Cesar got into the cult of the personality and all that, and that was part of his downfall.
Can you talk a little about
and he focused a lot on legislation rather than going out and organizing workers at their work sites.
Can you talk a little bit more? But you said the cult of the personality for Cesar Chavez.
Actually, after that, would you mind showing us after that question the rest of the stuff you brought in before we segment into your work into the Poetry Foundation?
Oh, the LA Poet Society.
But you can answer this question.
What did you want me to do?
Okay. I just want to talk a little more about what you brought.
The stuff that you brought in.
Oh, no, you know what? I was going to show you a couple of pictures, but anyway. But this stuff is just other marches that took place afterwards.
But I can hold it for the camera.
And that was 2008, and this one was 2000. 2013. But as time went on, the marches got less and less because the urgency was not there.
Yeah.
But now you're going to see another change, another surge of people fighting. And you guys could keep this stuff. I brought it just for you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So the urgency is going to arise, and when times are hard, it's the best time to organize because people are going to get it and they're going to come out and fight. And so you're going to see a lot of more demonstrations, activism around immigration. Right now, different coalitions throughout the country are forming in preparation because they're trying to, right now, people are trying to pressure Biden to sign in. There's about 3.5 million people who are in the system that were told, and Clinton was the one who screwed this up. He put together a policy, and you had to go back to your country of origin before being allowed back in. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of people didn't. They were already in the shoe, right, in the process. And so they stayed. Now, Biden can through an executive order, grant those people legalization, and also all the DACA students. That's almost a million, if not more, students. And the shame of it is that there's a lot of young people who didn't even apply. So I think there's a very small window period between now and the 20th when the new president takes office, and then you're going to see, a whole different type of repression taking place. First, it's the psychological terror that they're going to inflict on people and get people scared and uptight and all that. And that's brutal. I mean, to live under fear, that is brutal.
Now, if you'd like to, could we move into into the Poetry Foundation and why, how does this intersect with your activism, your work in poetry?
You know what? I think artists, poets, writers provide a really important outlet and a voice for resistance. Okay, so what I did is I helped found. I was a founder, and then I brought in other people I first organized the first LA annual street poetry festival. It took place August 24th, downtown LA at the Latino Theater Company, LA Theater, their theater, which is right there on Spring Street. And they allowed us to use their space. And so the idea was to get people to raise their voices of resistance. Our theme it's going to be every year, Poesía de Resistencia y Amor. So you can have resistance, but also you can have love for the people because you're doing something in behalf of people, whether you're writing, whether you're picketing, whether you're, protesting in any way, or whether your song or painting. So I think those are important things to do. Now, the LA Street Poetry Festival was the first of its kind because what we wanted to do was get the fabric of poets throughout the city of LA, not just Mexicans. Mm-hmm. We wanted to make sure we touch, the cultural demographics of LA, but also what we did is that we had a lot of young people come forth and participate. Like the Latino Theater Company has a summer conservatory where they teach people how to do film, how to act, how to do production, how to write, and there's about 40 young people. So 10 of them had done a presentation at one of their events. So what I suggested is that we hire them and give them their first union-paying job. Because the LA Theater Center, the LA Latino Theater Company is a union house. That means any seat over a 99, it's union. So you have a lot of community theaters all over the place, but they're 99 seats because that's the limit.
Mhm.
So all the people there who work either volunteer or they get paid less. But at the Latino Theater Company, they're all union, the technicians, everybody.
Paid equal.
So I came up with the idea is let's pay them for their first union job for their performance. So they all got paid. And we paid all the poets and the people who led the workshops and all that. But I wanted to embed in them the consciousness of what they're doing is worth. Their self-worth is important. And so they need to be paid for their artistic endeavors. So
Yeah. One last question before we get into like the final thoughts. I'm sorry for not asking this earlier, but is there anything that inspired you to become involved in the Sin Fronteras project or the Los Angeles Street Poetry Committee?
You know what? The Sin Fronteras was the newspaper Casa, by the way, and I forgot to bring it. I had a bunch of them I was going to bring. It was the first national bilingual newspaper that came out in the 70s, Sin Fronteras. So that was
in
the
Los
newspaper.
Angeles?
It came out nationally.
Nationally?
Yeah, we had it circulated nationally. So that's the newspaper of Casa, Center for Autonomous Social Action, Hermandad General de Trabajadores. That was our vehicle. So we used to go sell it on the weekends, at different shopping centers or go knock on doors. I mean, that's kind of the grassroots stuff we would do besides, just not just have demonstration. Casa had a legal department where they help people, register and start the process to allow them to become legal residents or citizens, and people paid a membership fee for that, and so they got those services. So what inspired me is to just keep doing this work. It's important. And then the Sin Fronteras project isn't a project. It's called the Sin Fronteras Organizing Committee. That was a misprint. Okay, my bad on that. But we started we had a second year called the Sin Fronteras Lifetime Achievement Award, and we had it. You guys got to come next year. We coordinated with UCLA Labor Center and other people and some unions. So we gave awards to people who necessarily would never get an award for all their activism and being a voice of our people. Unsung heroes that don't get Academy Award, don't get a gala.
Not like this huge mainstream.
Yeah,
but
but it was beautiful because we got some unions, we got people, and we held it at the Pico House in downtown LA last year. So we gave an award to Jorge Gonzalez. He was a real great civil rights lawyer. Matter of fact, he was one of the ones that last challenged Trump on immigration and won. So, but he challenged. He passed away. Yeah.
This was challenged.
This was a few years back when Trump was still in office, and so he did work for the California Mexican Center, which was out of Long Beach with Armando Vasquez, who unfortunately also just passed recently. He ran that thing for a long time. So they did some legal work, Jorge Gonzalez. So we recognize him. He's been a long-time civil rights lawyer. And we also recognize a woman named Evelina Marquez, who was a CASA member who has done trade union work for decades, but would have never gotten an award if it wasn't for this. So anyway, so this year we recognize more women. Patricia Cordova Vianawith, she was one of the women CASA member who organized the first coalition against sterilization of women at East LA. So they're sterilizing women in East LA. So they're part of our organization, but they built that committee to include other people. So my passion has always been helping people. So the important thing about that is that, you do it because you want to do it. I mean, we don't get paid. There's no pension. That's why my pension is a low pension that I have, because I dedicated most of my life to doing this type of work. And you do it for free. And you know, there's no pay. Sometimes organizations can pay you, but we didn't have that. And so we did it out of the love and the care and the importance of building consciousness and organizing people to do work. I mean, and we impacted. We single-handedly, through that 15-year battle of fighting for immigrant rights, a humane immigration, right? We changed the total discussion of immigration in this country and labor organizing, that you could include undocumented workers. That changed things totally. Sure. There was a big strike also in around 1993. Mm-hmm. It was it was sheetrock workers. They were calling the Waleros, mm-hmm. And they went on strike through Southern California for better wages and all that. So a lot of things have occurred and happened.
I have one last question since we're almost out of time. Yeah. What would you say to this next generation of activists, in hindsight of everything you've been through and in hindsight of everything you've done? What would you tell this next generation, and what, like, I guess, advice for them today? What would you tell them?
I would tell people to learn about their history, learn about what our people have done. There's a book called Bad Mexicans, which you guys ought to read. It talks about the history of our people fighting, and written by a African-American woman at UCLA. So that we need to understand where we came from. This isn't no vacuum, or like the Chicano movement wasn't the rise of civil rights. Our people were fighting before that. The Mendez decision helped the Brown Act, the Brown, Plessy versus Brown, that desegregated the schools. But Mexicans did it, and with Westchester here in LA way before. So there's a lot of things that we don't understand of our history because it's not taught.
I think it's because it's not taught, and we don't like seek that information as well. You know, like many people, like including myself, I didn't like start getting involved and start learning about, you know, Chicano history until like start of high school. You know, it needs to be.
Well, you're ahead of the game.
Yeah.
But
see,
it's also the fact that you mentioned before how there's just self-hate.
Yeah.
And that also prevents some of us from actually diving into it, because if you hate yourself, you can't.
Yeah. But you know what, I think there's more love and positiveness that we can derive out of all that, because we need to build on the good of people, that they're going to do the right thing. Some people are not. We've got to be realistic.
Yeah.
And we're not going to be able to drag everybody in to participate. We can only do so much. We can do only the best we can do. And you guys have a future. I don't know where you're planning to go to college or what your passions are, but your passion is important to do whatever, because you could always make money, but would you want to be making money and being happy?
Yeah, no.
But the thing is, but you also have to be realistic, right? You got to do stuff. But the thing is, just what you're doing here is you're reaching tens of thousands. We didn't have this stuff. We used to do what was called diddle machines. You would print, type a thing, and then you tear it, then you put it on this cylinder, and then that's how we would make leaflets.
So you did that by hand?
I did that. When we did the walkouts, I did a bunch of little leaflets. Then after I printed them, I cut them up. They're little leaflets.
So they're all manual?
They're all manual. But that stuff, look at now, we got color photos. Como hemos cambiado.
Yeah. No.
But the thing is, you know, I want to leave you with this, okay? James Baldwin in 1957, in one of his short stories, Sonny's Blues, he wrote, and I'm quoting him, "We need to dare ourselves to pause and consider our place in the world, for while the tale of how we suffer and how we are delighted, how we may triumph is never new. It always must be heard. There isn't any other tale to tell. It is the only light we've got in all the darkness."
Wow.
So you gotta we gotta be able to, I don't know if we have time for this, but I wrote a poem about what I prefaced it. I wrote, they honored me the other day, the LA Poets Society, at their quinceañera a week ago, Saturday. And I wrote this poem. It says, "It seems like we lost a $7 bill and we'll never be able to cash it. There's nothing like feeling despair when you lose something you believe you value and in your possession. Remember what it was like as a little kid when you lost a nickel. That's a whole 5 cents. A nickel back in the 60s could buy you a lot of candy. You had status if you were able to buy a nickel candy bar or a bag of Paula seeds. Now they call them sunflower seeds these days. But if you misplaced or lost the round silver-plated looking coin, you were in a panic and didn't know it was stress, because we hadn't heard the term in those days, or at least it was not a common word we used. Our frame of mind was pissed off, angry, mad, y con mucho coraje. The blurry haze in our burst, intent, bloodshot eyes gave away a reflection of the pain we were feeling. We were in pain. We were in a panic mode and didn't even know it. We would search for the nickel coin like our existence depended on it. When we got older, many of us came into the quarter or half dollar coins. Just the larger size of those coins made you feel you had more of everything. So if you lost one of those large size silver, more of everything coins, you knew your eyes would welt up because it hurt. It hurt like when your first girlfriend dumped you and broke your heart. It hurt real bad. There was no words to describe your loss because the motherfucker was so real. You felt it deep in your being regardless of who you were. So we lost another big $7 bill recently and may not be able to cash it. But the pain, hurt we feel deep inside may not go away soon. But our hope is to once again find the joy of thinking we could cash the $7 bill.
That's beautiful,
Yeah.
and I think it's beautiful. I don't even know how to comment that, but it's just that was really beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. But I think we're
unfortunately,
out of time.
We're out of
I
time.
would like to see if you can, if for the photo, if we can see that quickly.
You know what this is?
If you could just go through
I
it.
was the political director of the largest labor construction worker union. Yeah. So we did a voter registration drive when Obama was going to become president, and I ran the largest registration drive in the history of the labor construction workers, LAUNA, Labor's International Union of North America. And there's Sergio Rascon, he was the general manager, and I was spearheading. I was the political director for the Local 300, which is in LA. It's the largest construction workers local in the country.
Can you talk about, just name the people who were in the photo?
Yeah, and then there's
Here a second.
Luis. These are some members. This guy's named Luis. I don't know who the others are. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But Sergio Rascon he's the vice president now, LAUNA here, international vice president, and he's a general manager of Local 300. Yeah. So,
Okay.
and I sent you some stuff on email.
Yes.
I sent you a picture of a demonstration,
Before that.
a police demonstration
we have
that I
that.
put on. Yeah. But I want to thank you very much for
Thank you.
for bringing me here and giving me your generous time to talk.
No. Thank you. Thank you for coming here, giving us these, explaining your story. I mean, it was incredible. So thank you for taking the time out of your day to come talk with us. And I hope that whoever is listening can be inspired by your story.
Yeah.
And, understand that united, we are much stronger. And as a testament to everything you've done for the community. So with that said, I think
that's it. Thank you very much for whoever's watching and for listening into Stories of Our People. Thank you. Well, thank you so much for watching. If you're new here, please make sure to go and subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell for further uploads. This wouldn't be possible without the viewers, my parents, and everyone here. So please make sure to subscribe and show support so we can continue this. Thank you.
Thank you.